And this little beauty of a drawing is drawing 6. We're going to model this in 3D, and you may discover that it's a little bit more challenging than it at first appears. It's going to require a few different sketches, and something entirely new, it's going to require a new drawing plane that doesn't already exist. I'm going to start with just a top-down view that gives me this rectangle, 48 by 112. I'm going to add a rectangle onto the back, that's 12 by 112. So let's go do that. Pick my top plane, start a sketch, give a top-down view. How is this mad at me already? Somehow I started 2 sketches. And start here at the origin. 112 by 48. Zoom out. And I'm just going to get those dimensions out of the way. I'm going to add another rectangle on the back, hovering over this corner, bringing it up. I don't need the 112 because I already locked it in by hovering over those corners. But well, didn't expect that. I was trying to set this number, 12. There we go. So I've got my 2 basic shapes. Everything is black, everything is fully defined, constrained. So it's happy. Let's add our 2 circles. Notice I didn't put those anywhere. I'm going to give this last one a dimension. Let's figure out what the dimension should be. There's 2 of them. They both have a diameter of 15. So 15. I am now going to use my equal constraint. Make this circle equal this circle. Now they're both 15. I'm going to switch to my dimensioning tool. Make sure that number is 24. I am now going to line this circle up with that circle. Probably should have done that in the first place, and I didn't. The reason I did that, you'll see in just a second. I'm going to make this 24. One more dimension, and these both will be happily constrained. I'm going to go this way. 24. Notice they both moved when I did that. That's because I already locked this circle to that circle's vertical height. So when I dimensioned it, it moved to stay aligned, and everything is happily defined. All lines are black. Now, I am done with this for now. I'll go ahead and complete that. We'll grab kind of a 3D view. It's time to give it some thickness. It's 12 thick here, but it's 55 thick in the back. So we're just going to come over here and grab the extrude tool, hover over this face, and tell it 12. Notice this is going to be a new object, and it's already creating holes because those circles were there in advance. Now I'd like to work on the back and give it that 55, but the back is gone. Because once you create an extrusion, it hides the sketch. You have to click the eyeball to turn the sketch back on. Now we can click the extrude tool again, grab that back face, put in the 55, and notice, if I press enter, there we go. The first one was a new object. This one is being added to that first one. So we're just making this object grow. If for some reason I needed these to be 2 separate objects, I could have said new. But for now, that's good. Just going to click that. We've got a large chunk of our angle bracket done. What are we missing? This brace in the middle. Okay, well, Onshape lets you draw on planes and surfaces. I can draw here. I can draw here. I can draw here. I can't draw in the middle. There's nothing there to click on. If I want to draw on the original planes it gave me, top, front, right, those are all stuck over here in this corner. That's not going to work either. I need to be able to draw in the middle here somewhere. So we need a new drawing plane. There is a button, and depending on how big your window is, you may have to do a little searching for it. There's also a search tool over here on the far right. If you can't find it, you can type in plane, and you can see that the plane command comes up and it highlights plane in the toolbar. I need to create a new drawing plane. and it says, okay, what are we creating it from? How are you defining this? Now I could pick a surface and it's going to give me a drawing plane, and by default it's set to offset, so I could move this to put that drawing plane where I want it. So I know the object is 112. I can do the math, find the midpoint. There are other ways. What if we don't use offset? There's midplane, let it figure out the midpoint, and you just need to give it two surfaces. So I could give it this other surface over here. And there's a drawing plane perfectly in the middle of those. There are a few others that have some specialty uses that you're going to use far less often. Offset, midplane, and 3-point are going to be pretty frequently used. So let me show you 3-point now. I'm just going to get rid of those two faces I had previously selected. I'm going to choose 3-point. And what I want to do is pick 3 points that are on the plane I want, like that midpoint and that midpoint. And if I can find it, I know it's there somewhere. Come on. That midpoint. I pick all three and it generates a drawing plane for me as well. Any of those will work. I'm just going to hit OK because I've got my new plane. And I'm going to select that plane and choose Sketch. Now I need to draw this triangle brace, but it just goes from the top to the bottom, kind of as a complete triangle. You will need to draw these back lines and bottom lines, just so you can do the extrusion. It won't work with just one line. So if I do a line that goes from somewhere near here to somewhere near here, that will be good enough because I can use the constraints to get the rest of the way. I'm going to use my coincident constraint, grab the end of that line, find the midpoint of that line, boom. I'm going to do the same on the bottom end of that. There's the midpoint. Notice it turned black immediately. It knows exactly where that line is based on the other geometry. I'm going to switch back to the line tool. And I'm going to make a line that comes down here. I'm going to make sure it says vertical, but I'm not going to go all the way down because it's not going to give me a snap point to stop at. So I'm going to stop a little early. And for this one, I do have a snap point. I can go to the end of that line. Now this line's blue because it doesn't know where it actually is in space. I'm going to use my coincident constraint again. That endpoint. And now I can find the midpoint there. Snap. Everything's happy. I'm going to end that sketch. Now I've got the shape I need directly in the middle of this object. We just need to extrude it. So if I click extrude, and whoa, didn't mean to orbit that much, and I click that shape, we could say 12. Now hang on, you're probably already saying, wait a minute, that's not right. Because that entire 12 went in one direction. I need it to split evenly. Remember, we made this plane right in the middle. We didn't make it 6 too far to one direction. So there's another way to extrude. It doesn't have to be all in one direction. You can go symmetric, which means same on both sides. And you will see that plane is perfectly splitting that new shape. It's still 12, just 6 on each side. And I'm going to accept that. And what are we missing? We're missing these cut off corners. So those are called chamfers when it's cut at an angle like that and not rounded like a fillet. To chamfer, whoop, wrong direction. To chamfer the corners, there is a chamfer command. It's right next to the fillet command right up here. You can choose chamfer. You can choose a corner. And we can choose how we want to cut that corner. You can already see it's cut a little bit, but that was such a small number that it's hard to see on this fairly large drawing. So looking at this drawing, what do we have? Well, we know how far it is from one edge to the next, so we have a distance to work with. And we also know what the angle is, and that just happens to be one of the options. Distance and angle. So the angle is 45. The distance is 55 minus the 32, which is going to give us a 23. There's your chamfer. You can chamfer more than one edge with these settings. It'll just hang on to those same settings. And that drawing is done. Now some of these are a little hard to dimension if they were not part of a sketch. So how do you measure this thing afterwards if you want to make sure that it's right? You can right click on your part down here and say create drawing of part 1. Choose the 4 views. That'll just be the quickest, easiest way. Wait a bit while it thinks about drawing those. And you've got your part in 4 different views, so you can quickly add some dimensions. Your dimensioning tool is right here, and with a click of a couple of corners, you can see that dimension and that dimension. And now we know really quickly that that is indeed accurate. Okay, that's it for this drawing.